caught my wife cheating with her employee. Hey, true story, my name is Xavier, and I've been a fan of your channel for about a year now. I never thought I'd be sitting down to write my own story, but life has a way of humbling you. Right now, I'm knee-deep in divorce proceedings with my soon-to-be ex-wife, who I'll just call M for this email. Writing this out feels like therapy, and if my story helps even one guy out there avoid the mistakes I made or see the red flags I ignored, then it's worth sharing. This all started with a gut feeling. They say your instincts rarely lie, and I learned that the hard way. Let me back up a bit and explain how things unraveled, and then I'll work my way to the day I caught her red-handed. The day that changed everything. It was just a regular Thursday, nothing special. M was at work, and I was wrapping up a job site earlier than expected. I'm a contractor by trade, so my schedule can be unpredictable. Normally, if I get done early, I'll call her, and we might grab lunch or dinner. But that day, she was acting weird. She texted me around 11 a.m. saying she was super swamped and wouldn't have time to talk on the phone. That was already unusual because we always had at least a quick check-in during the day. I texted back, "No worries, love you," and she replied with just a thumbs up emoji. No love you too. No kiss emoji. Nothing. Call it paranoia, call it intuition, but something didn't sit right. Later that afternoon, I texted again around 2 p.m. asking if she wanted me to bring her a coffee. She said, "No, don't come by. I'm busy with the deadline." That set off alarm bells. In all the years we've been together, she never told me not to swing by. Even if she was busy, she'd usually say, "Sure, leave it at the front desk," or something like that. So what did I do? I decided to swing by anyway. I wasn't planning to snoop. Honestly, I just wanted to see her face, reassure myself that everything was fine, and maybe surprise her with that coffee. But when I walked into that office, I stumbled onto the kind of scene you never erase from your brain. There she was, in her office, door cracked, blinds halfway drawn, and she was on top of one of her employees. I froze. I don't even know how long I stood there before they noticed me. It felt like my whole body went numb. I heard her gasp my name, and the guy scrambled like a deer in headlights. I just turned and walked out. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely get my keys into the ignition when I got to my truck. My phone started buzzing nonstop. Texts, calls, all from her. I didn't answer. That was the exact moment my marriage ended, even if the paperwork hadn't started yet. How we got here. To really understand how devastating this was, I have to give you some context about her job, and the man she cheated with. M is a partner at an architecture firm. She's been there for over a decade now. About 9 months ago, the firm hired a young drafter, a 20-something black guy fresh out of school who dreamed of becoming a licensed architect one day. Now, here's where it gets complicated. I'm also black, and I know firsthand how tough it can be in certain industries. So when M said she wanted to mentor him, I didn't think much of it at first. She framed it as wanting to support someone who looked like me, someone who might not have all the opportunities laid out for him the way others might. She even told me, "Look, I know I'm just a white woman, but I understand some of the struggles because of my college experience. I spent a semester in an underprivileged neighborhood doing a design studio." At the time, I let that slide. Honestly, I didn't see it as a threat. I figured she was just trying to use her position to help a young guy out. And maybe, in some twisted way, I felt proud that she saw the value in mentoring someone who reminded her of me. But looking back, I see how naive I was, how we met. Let me rewind to how M and I even crossed paths in the first place. I met her through the work. I'm a contractor, and years ago, I did some construction work for her firm. She had already been there for about 8 years, climbing the ladder. At the time, the owner was talking about selling the firm to three of the licensed architects who'd basically been running things. She was one of those three. We hit it off instantly. She had this energy, this confidence. I'll be honest, she swept me off my feet. I thought she was different, independent, driven, classy. She wasn't like some of the women I had dated before. She carried herself like she knew exactly where she was going in life, and I admired that. Fast forward, we dated, got married, bought a house, did the whole build a future together thing. On the surface, it looked solid, but under the surface, now that I'm looking back, there were cracks. The red flag I ignored. There was one moment early in the marriage that I should have never overlooked. About 6 months in, she told me she was going out with some coworkers for drinks after work. No big deal, right? I trusted her, but that night, she didn't come home until nearly 3 a.m. She claimed her phone had died, and they all decided to crash at one coworker's house after too many margaritas. At the time, I swallowed that excuse. I wanted to believe her. I told myself, she's responsible. She wouldn't risk everything for something shady. But deep down, I knew it didn't add up. I had no proof, but I'm 100% sure she was lying about where she was and what she was doing that night. To this day, that thought haunts me. I feel like a fool for letting it slide because if I had dug deeper back then, maybe I would have uncovered the truth about who she really was. That was the first red flag, and I ignored it, catching them together again. Now let me go back to how I caught her not once, but twice. After that office incident, I tried to wrap my head around what to do next. We barely spoke for a couple of days, just cold silence in the house. She kept saying she was sorry, begging me to not ruin her life. Then came the kicker. About a week later, I went to one of our favorite Creole food spots. It was our go-to date night place. I walked in, and guess who I saw in the corner booth? M and that same young drafter. I sat there, hidden behind a partition, and watched them. She leaned in close, touching his arm, laughing like a teenager. And then, plain as day, they kissed. In our spot. The same place where we had celebrated anniversaries. That's when I walked over. I didn't yell. I didn't cause a scene. I just said, "So this is what you're doing now?" Her face went pale. He looked like he wanted the ground to swallow him up. She stammered, "Xavier, please, let me explain." But there was nothing left to explain. I left them sitting there, her begging. The messages that followed are burned into my phone. Email after email, text after text, all from her, begging me not to expose her affair at work, saying things like, "Please don't say anything. It'll ruin his career before it even starts. If you care about me at all, don't destroy everything I've worked for. We can work through this, Xavier. Just please don't blow this up." She wasn't worried about me. She wasn't worried about the vows she broke, the trust she shattered, the life we built together. No, her main concern was saving face and protecting her and her employee. That was the final nail in the coffin for me, where I am now. So here I am, sitting in an empty house, staring down the barrel of divorce. I've got stacks of paperwork on the kitchen counter, and every day feels like a battle. Some mornings I wake up angry. Other mornings I wake up just numb. What eats me alive is the idea that I should have seen this coming sooner. That maybe I wasted years on someone who never valued me the way I valued her. I think about that young guy too. Part of me wants to hate him, but the truth is the power dynamic here is messy. She's his boss, his mentor, the person who could make or break his career. Did he pursue her? Did she pursue him? Probably both. But at the end of the day, she was the one who vowed to be faithful to me, not him. It still doesn't make it hurt any less. Closing thoughts. If there's any takeaway from my story, it's this. Don't ignore the red flags. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't let love blind you to the truth. I know this email is long, but I wanted to give you the full picture. If you decide to share it on the channel, I hope it resonates with someone out there who's on the fence about whether to trust their gut. But there's more. As it turns out, betrayal has layers. The more I learn, the more it feels like I've been living in a house built on lies. And this time, it's not just about her. It's about the people around her too. I've uncovered more since the last time I wrote in, and honestly, I need to get this off my chest. Finding out the partners knew. After things blew up, I told myself I'd keep my head down and let the divorce play out. But something wasn't sitting right with me. One night, about 2 weeks after I caught her at the restaurant, I was at a bar near the office. Not intentionally. I wasn't stalking or anything like that. I was just grabbing a drink after a long day at work, and that bar happens to be popular with a lot of professionals from downtown. That's when I ran into someone I used to know through M, an older guy named Dave, who had been a project manager at the firm for years before he retired. He's the kind of guy who loves to talk after a couple of beers, so we got to chatting. Eventually he leaned in and said something that stopped me cold. You know, I always wondered how long you'd put up with what was going on in that firm. I asked him what he meant, and he kind of laughed nervously. Then he said, "Come on, Xavier. You really didn't know?" Everyone knew she and that drafter were close. Too close. The partners didn't say anything because they didn't want drama while they're trying to buy out the owner. But trust me, it wasn't a secret. I swear my stomach dropped through the floor. So not only was my wife sneaking around, but the other partners, the same people she's supposed to share ownership of the firm with, were in on it. They didn't confront her. They didn't stop it. They just turned a blind eye because it was convenient. That hit me harder than I expected. It made me realize I wasn't just betrayed by her, but by an entire environment that enabled her. The culture of the firm. Once Dave opened that door, I started connecting dots I hadn't thought about before. The firm always had this weird family but not family vibe. They'd throw these office happy hours, retreats, and team building weekends. M would come back from those events a little too giddy sometimes, a little too loose-lipped after a glass of wine. She'd brag about how progressive they were, how everyone's like a family. But what I see now is that family was code for covering each other's backs no matter what, even when it came to unethical, inappropriate stuff. I've since learned that my wife wasn't the only one blurring lines. Apparently, one of the other partners, let's call him S, had his own thing going with a junior designer a few years back. It fizzled out, but everyone knew. It was like an unspoken rule. As long as you kept the projects moving and the money flowing, personal boundaries didn't matter. That's the environment M thrived in. And I was too blind to notice. Emails I wasn't supposed to see. Here's where it gets worse. I was digging through some old shared files one evening. Stuff we used to keep on the home computer for when she worked late and needed access to documents. She thought she deleted everything, but you'd be surprised how much lingers in cloud backups. I found an email thread between her and one of the partners, dated about 4 months ago. It wasn't explicit, but it was clear enough. The partner basically said, "We've all noticed how much time you're spending with the drafter. Just keep it professional enough that it doesn't bite us in the ass. We don't need HR headaches right now." Her reply, "I appreciate the discretion. You know I'd never let it get in the way of the work." That was it. Short, cold, transactional. Like her whole marriage and reputation were just a side note to be managed. So yeah, the partners didn't just suspect something, they knew. They condoned it as long as it didn't hurt the bottom line. The other things I discovered. Since then, more pieces of the puzzle have come out. The restaurant staff recognized them. After catching them at the Creole place, I went back there about a week later to grab takeout. One of the waiters, who's known me and M for years, pulled me aside and said, "Hey man, I didn't want to say anything the other night, but they've been in here a lot." like a lot. Turns out our spot had quietly become their spot too. That stung more than I can explain. Her work trips weren't just work. I also look back at her calendar, those overnight conferences she attended in the past year. I checked the hotels. Let's just say her receipts showed dinners for two, not one. My gut tells me the drafter wasn't the only one either. The drafter himself. I learned that this guy, let's call him Jay, had already been warned once before about overstepping boundaries with female coworkers. HR brushed it under the rug because they didn't want to derail his career. So when M got involved with him, it wasn't just a one-off. He already had a reputation. Her gaslighting. Looking back, I realized how much she gaslit me during our marriage. Every time I questioned her late nights, her vague answers, her "I'm just helping him with his portfolio" excuses, she flipped it back on me. "Why are you so insecure? Don't you trust me?" She made me doubt myself when the truth was right there. How this hit me emotionally. I can't even put into words how humiliating it feels to realize everyone else knew before you did. It's one thing to be cheated on, it's another thing to feel like the last person in the room to figure it out. It makes you question your intelligence, your self-worth, your whole sense of reality. I've been going through waves of anger, shame, and depression. Some mornings I wake up ready to burn everything down. Other mornings I can barely get out of bed. I've had to pull myself back from sending angry emails to her partners or showing up at the firm to expose everything. But then I remind myself, revenge won't heal me. Divorce will. Walking away will. Talking to family and friends. When I opened up to my family, it was rough. My mom was heartbroken because she always liked M. My dad was furious, telling me, "Son, you should have trusted your gut years ago." My closest friend, who never really vibed with M, said, "Man, I knew she was too slick. You deserve better." Even though their support helps, it also makes me feel stupid all over again. Like, was I really the only one who didn't see her for who she was? Therapy and reflection. I started seeing a therapist after all this. At first, I was resistant. I thought therapy was for people who couldn't handle life. But let me tell you, it's been a lifeline. I've been unpacking why I ignored red flags, why I overinvested in her validation, and why I stayed silent when my instincts screamed. The truth is, I wanted so badly for our marriage to be the real deal that I ignored the signs it wasn't. My therapist told me something that stuck. "Xavier, you can't blame yourself for someone else's choices. You can only take responsibility for the fact that you stayed when you should have left." That hit me. What I've learned. Here's what I know now. If a workplace looks the other way once, it'll look the other way again. People who cheat rarely think about who they're hurting. They only think about protecting themselves. Mentorship and boundaries can't coexist if there's an ulterior motive. And most importantly, if something feels off, it is off. Period. Where things stand now. The divorce is moving forward. She's been scrambling to negotiate quietly, probably terrified I'll expose her at the firm. But the truth is, I don't even care about revenge anymore. I just want out. I've started journaling every day, hitting the gym more, reconnecting with friends I'd lost touch with. Slowly but surely, I'm remembering who I was before her. The irony? She keeps sending me these "let's talk" emails, acting like maybe we can fix things. But you can't fix something that was built on lies from day one. Final thoughts. So yeah, true story, that's the update. The affair wasn't just between her and the drafter. It was an open secret in her whole firm. And I was the fool who thought I had a faithful wife, when really I was living in the middle of the soap opera. If anyone out there is reading this and sees even one red flag in their relationship, don't ignore it. Don't gaslight yourself the way I did. Because if you don't face the truth now, it will come crashing down later. And trust me, it hurts 10 times worse. Thanks for giving me the space to share this. Writing it out helps me process, and maybe it'll save another guy from wasting years on someone who never deserved him.